Hey guys, this is a very different video for this channel. I don't normally talk about Magic. I think I've briefly mentioned it on stream maybe like a time or two, so this is really weird, and I'm just mostly here to complain about a deck I am building. So first of all, as you can tell, I love Chocobos from Final Fantasy. I have the Hollow Foil Neon Chocobo playmat. I got these special sleeves the day they released. I literally bought this pack like the second the guy put it on the shelves. And I snagged this bad boy from our card shop. It was the last one they had, and there's another guy who wanted it, and I basically said, I'll pay double. So, they were actually really nice, by the way. They didn't make me pay double. The other guy was like, nah, man, because I bought this the same time I bought the sleeves. He was like, nah, man, just, you buy them both. You clearly love them. So, let's talk about Choco Seeker of Paradise. This was a legendary bird from the Final Fantasy set, which was clearly meant to be the commander for the Chocobo deck. There wasn't a Chocobo precon, sadly, but I feel like this was kind of intended to be the way you build one. So for a blue, a white, a green, and a generic, she is a 3/5 legendary bird with two pretty simple triggers. Whenever any number of birds you control attacks, you look at that many cards off the top of your library, and then you put one card from among them into your hand, you play all the lands tapped, and the rest go to your graveyard. Pretty simple effect. I think for 4 mana, and being able to trigger based off the size of your board is pretty straightforward. She, like other important Chocobos, have a landfall trigger, where whenever a land enters the battlefield, she'll gain +1 power until end of turn. This is very nice since she pulls lands before damage is dealt. That means if you have 3 birds, we'll say, counting her, you swing, you pull 3 lands, all of them get the +3 power for that attack since she triggers before damage. While we're on the topic, let's talk about the token. 2/2 bird, landfall, gain 1 power whenever you play a land. It is incredibly straightforward, and like I said, other key birds have the same trigger, and we'll talk about those right now. You see, Choco, Seeker of Paradise, has a lot of ups. It plays really well into Chocobos. The only problem is the major downside Seeker decks have, which is the heavily restricted amount of Chocobos. Now, if you want to just build a bird deck, she is great for those. She is an amazing bird commander. However, if you want to build around the funny little Chocobos themselves, you have a problem. First of all, there are 2 Chocobos in red. She does not get access to red, so you don't get to play them in this deck. While we're on the topic, there are no Chocobos in black. She's not black, so that doesn't matter, but yeah, no black Chocobos, sorry. Even black Chocobo is green, so, fuck you, I guess. And now, hilariously, she is blue, white, and green. There are 2 white Chocobo cards, and there are no blue Chocobo cards. So, most people who run dedicated Chocobo decks actually run them in green, and only green, since there's a lot better creature tutor, and the mono-green legendary Chocobos just kind of play better with the idea of rampy, big green. So, I'm building this, and I am purposely restricting myself to being as Chocobo themed as possible, which means I'm running every Chocobo card you can in this color set. I have them all right here. That's all of them. I have them ordered in a specific order I want to talk about. We'll get to that in just a moment. But what's in the rest of the deck? So in the rest of the deck, I have just some other generic land search, some stuff to help with, things like that. I do have the Paradise Chocobo from the bundle and stuff like that. It's mostly basic lands and a couple of stuff from Final Fantasy. Don't let the name confuse you. Chocobo Kick does not care if it's a Chocobo. Deal with it. So, most of what I have is some basic card draw playing off of landfall. It's a relatively low-powered deck, so I'm not playing anything crazy. I think some of the strongest key pieces in that deck are that one Simic Merfolk that draws and gains life on landfall. God, I can't remember his name. Her name? I don't know. I'm not going to look for it. But most of the deck is birds that draw cards, landfall triggers that generally help out a little, stuff like Avenger of Zendikar, that Merfolk that draws cards. Nothing crazy, what you would expect to see in this color combo while playing around landfall. As for birds, there's a couple of the, birds get +1/+1 and stuff like that. Most of the actual bird creatures in the deck that aren't Chocobos are all there for utility, stuff like card draw, bouncing other cards and the stuff like that. That's kind of it, though. The deck doesn't get access to a whole lot if you're playing specifically around Chocobos, and if you're really not trying to lean too heavily into birds. So most of my big effects I'm looking for are Populate, to keep these tokens on the field for as long as possible. Big key piece is Nesting Dovehawk. I don't have it pulled out, but it's in here. And it's really nice. At the beginning of combat, you Populate, which is just really, really good for this deck. So let's talk about the actual Chocobos. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this deck. So, starting off pretty simply, we're going to talk about the ones that don't really matter. Choco and Mog, they're awesome. For 4 turns, they give all creatures you control +1 power. It's like you get a little mini landfall trigger for all your tokens, and if you got anything else out, they get the +1 power. they're mostly here because they are a bird, they give the power, and because they're a bird, they give the Seeker an extra 1 search for that trigger. After that, we have the good greens. This just creates 1 token for 2 mana, and for 7 mana, you can do it 1 more time at a grave. That might be one of the least worth it flashbacks I have ever seen, but hey, I guess it's there. I think it is quite literally cheaper to use any amount of spell reanimate in this color selection and just recast it. So these two really don't do anything for the deck. They're mostly here to just be birds, create the tokens. They're just like little utility pieces that help get more Seeker triggers and keep the birds up. Fat Chocobo is a lot more relevant. First of all, he is a 5-drop 4/4 Saga creature, so he'll only be out for 4 turns, but on that first turn he creates a token, which means any amount of flicker or returning him to my hand, I can replay him for another bird and still have this 4/4 on the field. After that first turn, all creatures have trample. It's pretty straightforward. It's called Kerplunk, which is absolutely hilarious. And it's just nice. You have a lot of birds, you're getting, swing triggers with Seeker, he gives them all trample. It pairs really well. It's very nice, and he's definitely not useless in the deck, but he is a little bit less important than some of the other cards. We have the combo of Ambrosia Whiteheart and the Black Chocobo card. Now, this is the side quest Raise a Chocobo card specifically. And specifically, these 3 cards on the field at the same time are very nice. How it would work is I have Seeker out. Oh, but I have no birds. Allow me to play side quest Raise a Chocobo. When it enters, I create a bird. If I have 4 birds, it'll flip into Black Chocobo, and that's really nice. But hey, I still only have 2 birds. Okay, we'll play Ambrosia. She is a bird, which is nice, and when she enters, I return a permanent to my hand. Oh, I'll return this side quest. Now I can play the side quest again, create another bird, and at the beginning of my next first main phase, I get a 5th bird. The benefit of this board state is that all of these birds are the birds that have the landfall +1 power trigger. They are also all, I believe, the only birds to have this trigger. So this field is a really good combo piece into Seeker's trigger with playing more lands and all of them gaining the +1 power. Only problem, it's these 2 cards specifically in a deck where there's not a whole ton of tutor and you're not really guaranteed to pull these early. More importantly, while I can use certain cards to pull Ambrosia easily, Black Chocobo isn't a creature until it flips, so it can be kind of hard to tutor out sometimes since it is an enchantment by default. So, moving on, other Chocobo pieces we have are Bartz and Boko. A lot of mono-green Chocobo decks run this commander. He has affinity for birds, which means he's going to cost 1 less for each bird you control. He is a 3 generic, 2 green, 4/3 legendary human bird, meaning he will give us Seeker triggers on attack. And whenever he enters, all of your birds, except him, deal damage equal to their power to target creature an opponent controls. It's a solid effect. You blow a thing up, you can flicker him, bounce him with Ambrosia, do whatever you want. Have him as a commander, he'll come out a good amount of times, he'll basically always cost 2 green. So it's a decent effect. I see why people run him as a commander in mono green Chocobo, although I think there is a better option. He's pretty solid. I'd say he's not a bad card for the deck by any means. No reason not to run him in a bird deck, especially a Chocobo deck where you're playing off of these high power creatures, because if he comes out on second main when all the lands come out from Seeker, you could actually hit some creatures with some massive, 5-6 damage Chocobos. Massive for Chocobos, at least. Up next, we have the amazing combo of Saz and Saz's Chocobo from Final Fantasy XIII. We'll start with Saz's Chocobo. This is like a regular Chocobo. He has the landfall trigger, except he's a little different. First of all, he's a 1-drop, and he's a little 0/1 guy. She, actually. You did not know this is a girl. It matters for, I think it's 13 too. Not getting into the Final Fantasy lore, though, here. So, her landfall trigger is that instead of gaining the +1 power, she gains a 1/1 counter outright. This is really nice. This means that she'll have a way more permanent presence on the board for as long as she's out on the field. It's a lot better than the tokens, and coming out with 1 mana is really nice. More importantly is Saz himself. When he enters, he tutors a bird or a land. Before recently, that land search wasn't that vital for the deck, but the bird search was. Specifically for another card we'll look at in a moment, but also for Saz's Chocobo outright. Saz's Chocobo pairs immaculately with Saz himself, because when Saz attacks, he's not a bird. Which sucks, you don't get your Secret trigger. Ah well, throw him out of the deck, he's useless, right? Okay, well actually though, when he attacks, he's going to put a 1/1 counter on a creature, which means Saz's Chocobo will always have a counter on it, even if you haven't played land yet. And more importantly, he then doubles the number of counters on that creature, which is absolutely insane. Just having a single token out Choco, Saz, and Saz's Chocobo, you swing these all. You pull 3 lands. You'll put 3 counters on Saz's Chocobo, and then he'll put 1 on there to 4, and then he'll double it to 8. It's absolutely insane. That's assuming you have no other land search shenanigans, you didn't land drop, things like that. Like, this, just with this commander, these 2 cards are amazing. Traveling Chocobo. This is the card everyone's going to be searching for with Saz. This is why I say Saz is actually a better commander than Bartz and Boko. Because you'll play him, you'll immediately search for Traveling Chocobo, and you are instantly online. Traveling Chocobo is like Mystic Forge for birds. I jokingly call this Mystic Birds whenever I play it. And it lets you look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands and bird spells from the top of your library, and if a land or bird triggers an ability by entering, it triggers twice. Which means that all of your birds that have the landfall trigger for +1 power, as well as Saz's Chocobo getting the 1/1 counter, will be doubled. More importantly, similar to a funny little Panharmonicon effect, a lot of the birds that have ETBs will also just trigger twice. Most importantly, Ambrosia, which if you have Saz and the side quest out, you could bounce them both or bounce Fat Chocobo to get another token. There's just a lot of potential with this, and it's why for mono green, I highly recommend Saz over Bartz and Boko, just because there's a lot more versatility being able to pull Traveling Chocobo and running a more counter-heavy bird deck. So let's talk about the actual card that makes this so good. Chocobo Racetrack. Unfortunately, it's mono green. So let's just talk about this. For 3 generic and 2 green, it is an artifact with the simple effect that whenever a land enters the battlefield, you create a bird. This is the only reason a true Chocobo deck can work at all. The only problem is that it's mono green, so in your mono green decks, you're gonna really fucking struggle to get this card out, since most good green tutor is creature based. Not saying you can't, there are green tutor cards, and there are definitely other ways of pulling this card more forcefully. Choco's trigger outright puts 1 card into your hand from the cards you look at. So it's fully possible that with a couple of birds, you can force Chocobo Racetrack out pretty early on. The other problem with it, 5 mana is a lot to ask for a card that is all about setup. So by the time this comes out, you need good land search. Usually that's going to come from Choco's effect, but Choco kind of needs this card to be really good. If this card isn't already out, you're not getting a lot of birds, Choco's not going to pull a lot of cards, making it even harder to find Chocobo Racetrack. So the best time to play this is usually you have a couple of birds, you play Chocobo Racetrack, you swing with Choco, and you get a couple of lands out of it, and you create more birds off of Racetrack. It's pretty good. You gotta play it kind of mid-game. You can't play it too early, or you're kind of just like slowly creating birds with no effect. You can't play it too late, or you're not really gonna get much out of it unless you have really good land search like Reshape the Earth, Boundless Realms, and cards like that. Unfortunately, for this deck, Primeval Titan I think is still banned. So a really, really good mono green card that could really make this super worthwhile is just not really there. It's a really good card. It's definitely necessary for the deck to run at a higher level than it could normally. It's just, this is the only direct recursion we have of the tokens. Like, there's not really any way to guarantee these birds out there more regularly outside of just bouncing the cards that do it on ETB. Which is nice, but this is just something you kind of need to make that effect happen often enough. It's super targetable, and normally in mono green, it's not very searchable. Luckily, Seeker's blue and white, which means we get a good amount of artifact search. It's not like the end of the world needing to tutor for this pretty regularly, but I don't like running tutors. I don't like needing to search for 1 card to put my deck super online. Luckily, Seeker can at least trigger a single time off of herself normally, so the deck does have the consistency of always being able to use the commander, even if not super effectively. Another big downside of it is that Chocobos are flightless in-game, so they are flightless in MTG. Which just leads to the super big problem of, without constant trample, they're also pretty hard to get through. Luckily, it's on attack for most of their triggers, so you're usually in the good. So, that's kind of it. For a while, this is how we ran Chocobo decks. If you wanted to run only Chocobos, with Secret Paradise as your commander, these were your only options. Now, there are other plenty good Final Fantasy cards that pair super well with Chocobos, and I do run those in here. Stuff like Tifa Lockhart, which has a landfall trigger to double her power and toughness, so Seeker can make her, get out of hand really quick. Let me actually search for her real quick. I don't remember actually if she gets Trample by default. She's hit the field so rarely for me. We'll talk about Nesting Tough Hawk while we're here too. Sorry, I didn't think I'd be talking about Tifa here. There she is. Okay, so she does have Trample. So it does make Tifa one of the few cards in this deck that plays well with the landfall trigger and can get damage through pretty effectively. Nesting Dovehawk, I may have already mentioned it, is a pretty strong part of this as well. At the beginning of combat, you create a token that's a copy of a token you control through Populate, and then anytime you create a token, it gains a Nesting Dovehawk gains a 1/1 counter. It pairs pretty well with stuff like Saz, who can double the number of counters on a creature. This could also get out of hand pretty quickly for people since it is flying, although obviously it's not a Chocobo, it's just a regular bird. So if you're going for pure Chocobo, this can feel a little out of place, and it does in this deck. This is only here because it's kind of necessary to keep things moving along. But this whole video was not about any of this. Believe it or not, I made this video to talk about a single card. A card I added to my deck essentially the day I could get my hands on it, and although it is an incredibly good key piece to the deck, its existence irks me so hard. Chocobo Camp. Chocobo Camp, exclusively holofoil, mind you, which I hate holofoil cards unless they're special, like the Choco Truck foil. This card is exclusive to the Final Fantasy XV Scene box. Now, this box isn't bad. It's got a lot of really good cards in it. The Noctis isn't bad. You can make for a decent commander, or just play him in a regular Noctis deck. Fishing Gear is not bad. Flash Photography is potentially an incredibly good card. And you know, it's not a horrible bundle. Except I bought it for Chocobo Camp, which means that this was a $60 card for me. And I get it. It's a bundle. I didn't just buy this one card. However, that's still only 6 cards. Granted, they are unique and new cards. They are good. They all play well into the obvious cards in the set they're meant to play around. The only problem I have, though, is that this is double the price of a secret layer in some cases. And Chocobo Camp isn't even that amazing of a card. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary creature. It taps for 1 green. And unlike a lot of other tribal lands, it actually doesn't say you have to spend the green on a Chocobo. It just says that if you cast a bird this turn, the next bird you cast, like the one after tapping this, gains a 1/1 counter. Plays well around Saz, plays well around Nesting Dovehawk. It's not a horrible card. And 4 mana, amazingly, it can create the bird. Oh my god, this is what we needed for a deck like this. And more importantly, if you're running mono green, it's in Saz's colors, and Saz can tutor this out. It is exactly what this color combo tribal needed, but it was locked behind a $60 bundle. And although now that bundle has gone down to, I think, $45, it's just absolutely insane that this piece, this huge key piece for a deck like this, is only in that bundle. You may have been able to pull this from the Choco bundle that came out, I'm not too sure. Like I said, I bought this from the Scene bundle when the Scene bundles came out. And I just kind of hate its existence. This is the only recursion that you can reliably pull in the deck's colors and archetype. Granted, you do have access to blue, so you can tutor out Racetrack. And it does play well around the whole deck, like I said. It triggers landfalls, so it'll trigger Racetrack, it'll trigger your Chocobos, it creates the birds for Seeker, it gives your birds 1/1 counters for Saz and Nesting Dovehawk. Like, it's not bad at all, it's just, man, why did this release separately from the main set at such a high price point? I don't get it. And that's literally all I was here to complain about. Like, this deck is pretty fun. It runs somewhat consistently with a lot of the birds I have in here. Most of the birds I run are utility. They're like card draw and other populate bouncing cards and the such, but man, this like holy grail of Chocobo synergy, just, it pains me how exclusive it was, and the fact that, again, this is more of a nitpicky thing, but this is exclusively holofoil as well, which isn't too bad, but now the card is permanently warped slightly. I don't know if it pops up on camera too well. But it warps slightly. It's just kind of ugly because of that. Like, the whole scene looks pretty good together. The cards form this art, which is really nice. I do love that the Chocobo Camp is at least part of that top banner art. Like, it's here, it's nice, it looks good. But, hey man, was this really worth it? Oh, I lost Noctis. Oh well. But yeah, like, I don't get why this had to be such a necessary effect locked behind such a unnecessary price point. I'm not normally one to complain about the market of Magic the Gathering, since I think its economy is pretty good. Usually strong cards cost a lot, but this isn't an expensive card. Not many people are running it because it's incredibly niche. And it kind of serves to a point that a lot of niche archetypes in Magic are just expensive to play, or hard to get your hands on new stuff for. I'm happy this card exists. It was a very, very needed print for the Chocobo, archetype, but man, it is just a pain how this was released. How kind of exclusive it is, despite how incredibly synergistic it can be. But hey, at least it came out. I'm happy it's here. It makes my deck so much better being able to tutor for it, and it makes me want to build a Saz deck outright. The day I get a second Traveling Chocobo, I will do that. But yeah, it just kind of sucks though that it released that way. I do run other cards in this deck like Abundance to help pull non-land cards, which I'm actually debating removing Abundance because now pulling Chocobo Camp is more important than ever. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I'm hoping for a second Final Fantasy set in the future, so hopefully we get more Chocobo cards. Hopefully in a bit more colors than just green, because like I said, there is 2 red ones. We got 2 white cards. There were no blue or black Chocobos as far as I'm aware. So yeah, I mean, I really, it just pains me. Like, I'm just upset. This is just a ranty video. I don't have a script, so I don't have like some like big conclusion here or like final words to like be like, do better, Wizards of the Coast. It's just, man, this fucking sucked. It's such a good card. I'm just so mad about it. Alright, well, fucking like the video if you want more Magic content or something like that. I don't know. I've got other decks that are actually interesting to talk about, so we'll see. Alright, you guys have a good one.